to demonstrate the Alimtox Ion Cell Cleanse, tell you a little bit about how it works and why. So we shall begin. There are two electrodes that come off of this device. One of them is a series of stainless steel plates. We use them to separate hydrogen from oxygen in the water. That allows us to produce ions. The other is an electrode that attaches to the body. It goes on the left hand wrist for men, it goes on the right for women. Our polarities are a bit different. If you look closely at the box, you'll see bubbles coming out of it. The bubbles are hydrogen, so we are actually separating hydrogen from oxygen. When I add sodium chloride, that is when we will begin to produce ions. The salt does two things. It helps to conduct electricity in the water, and the reason we use salt is because it's the perfect ion balance. Sodium produces positive ions and chloride produces negative ions. So we add a sprinkle of salt. Mix it in, please. Just stomp your feet a little bit, that'll help a lot. We want it to be around 1.8 or 2.0, and that's what we have. So at this point, we're producing ions in a finite area and a lot of ions. This is a very strong ion field. So as long as his body is touching this water, any part of his body, the ions will pass through his body. While we're passing ions through his body, we'll be running this other current through him. This current will fluctuate. It will cause what's stuck together or stuck to him on the inside to dislodge, become loose. That means metal, pesticides, chemicals, plastics, stuff the body has never been able to process out before, dislodges. Well, it is naturally attracted to the ions that are passing through his body. So these particles cluster, and that makes it easy for the kidneys to pick up and process out. So most of the stuff is processed out by the kidneys, and that's how we get the blood clean, like you see on the video screen. That you already got a shot of that you can use, right? Okay. And that's why we call it a cell cleanse. We do get a little bit of color in the water. Keep in mind that much of the color comes from the reaction between the metal and the salt in the water. So a lot of that is actually oxidation. However, we do get stuff from the body. If we run it with nobody in it, we will always get a rust color. It's always the same. When we put your body in it, we get stuff that has actually been carried to this eliminated channel, the foot, that enters the water, and we can identify it very easily. It's greasy, it's oily, it consists of candida and parasites and things that are definitely from the body. However, what happens in the water is not why this works. And most people are under the impression that this will draw the toxins down through your body and out of your feet, and I can assure you there's no such thing. It doesn't exist. Okay. So anything we get out of your feet while you're sitting here was actually already in your feet when you showed up. It's a very small amount of toxic material. All the heavy stuff settles down here because of gravity, and we have thick skin and big sweat glands down there. So it goes to figure that a little bit of what your body's trying to eliminate today is actually in that skin. And we'll see that come out into the water and identify it, and it's really nasty and gross, and it matches the physical condition 100% of the time. Meaning what you know is going on in your body is what will show up in the water, and it is uncanny at how often that is just right on the money. However, that's not what makes this work. That we get your blood clean. So you want to compare this to chelation, if you know what that is. Chelation is how they get really heavy metals out of people. It's quite invasive. They put stuff into your body that absorbs metals and minerals, and then they have to take it out.
Got it, right.
So it's pretty invasive. Chelation is a very, very strong and invasive process. This process, I've read lots of different things about where this came from, and so many people claim to have invented it. I certainly didn't invent it. I know that the best information I read on it was that it was developed by some Japanese scientists back around 1935. These were people that were working with plutonium, right, and making mercury and involved with very toxic metals and substances. And they were using this as a decontamination device. So, leave it to the Japanese to find a real clean way to do something. This is the early version of chelation. There's no chemicals involved. We simply use an electric current to get what's stuck to you inside to come loose. Then we run ions through you to collect it up into clumps so that your kidneys can process it out. And it's that simple. The whole process takes about 48 hours. So we'll do this to you for a half hour or an hour, and you'll be eliminating this stuff for the next 2 days. You probably won't notice, right? Because you just pee it out, and it doesn't really change the color of your urine unless you fail to drink water.
Yeah, that was my next question. How does it come out? So
you're just going to pee it out,
I see, yeah.
Right? And that's it. It's as simple as that, right?
Oh,
there's nothing magical about it. We're not curing diseases or treating symptoms, but we are making it possible for your immune system to do its job.
Yeah.
Right? The immune system is capable of curing just about any disease, providing that it is unencumbered. And when we get your blood clean like that, it makes a big difference. The blood cell is a dynamic part of our metabolism. We actually have 3 parts to our metabolism. We have the ingestion part, and then we have the absorption part, and then we have to disperse what we absorbed. And the red blood cell is responsible for that largely. I shall explain.
All right. Good.
Okay, so the red blood cell is an interesting part of our anatomy. The red blood cell has no nucleus. It's got a very thick mitochondria, very active mitochondria. It's got an electrical charge because the red blood cell itself is like a factory. It takes things in, it turns it into other stuff, and then expels it, disperses it, right? Okay. So there's the ingestion part, we put it in, then the job of the red blood cell is to absorb the oxygen, absorb the nutrients, and create energy from them. Also, this process is how we produce the proteins or the enzymes that our body needs to break down plaque and cholesterol and acids. Right?
I'll be darned.
So, short story. If we have things in our body that we can't use or process out, this generally tends to stick to us. Remember, we do have an electrical current. It turns this into kind of a magnet, and this stuff sticks to us on our cells and our hard tissue and creates a nutritional dilemma. And we don't absorb things the way we did when we were younger. So you look at blood cells. You can look at this guy's blood cells. You got to ask yourself, how's a guy like this feel every day? How's this guy supposed to absorb his nutrients and oxygen and produce energy? Right? This is a guy who's tired. His blood cells are all clumped together, clustered. They call it rouleau formations. This makes it very difficult to absorb and produce. Right? So this guy is somebody who would be worried about plaque and cholesterol in his body. He's unable to produce the proteins that break those things down. On a cellular level, this person is not performing well. Right? So his body's going to be acidic too. Remember, our body makes several different types of acids. For example, uric acid. If your body's producing uric acid and you're not breaking it down also, you're going to end up with gout, right? Or osteoarthritis. It gets in the
swelling of everything. And
that's right. It crystallizes in the cooler parts of our body.
Right.
It turns into like little glass shards. And it causes damages to our organs, our kidneys, our pancreas. It gets in there and crystallizes, and we end up with organ damage and joint down. That's just one acid. The more acidic we get, the more likely we are to have our immune system attack us, right? Autoimmune issues.
Mm-hmm.
The more acidic we are, the more likely we are to have our thyroid go off, right? And definitely the more likely we are to have things growing in our bodies. Acidity breeds cancerous growths.
Yeah.
So we want to keep our body closer to alkaline than acidic, which is very difficult. This guy, these blood cells, that's an
doing very
acidic person. He's not doing well,
Yeah.
right? So he's gonna start developing symptoms from the buildups of mostly acid. He's gonna start treating those symptoms because that's where the money is, isn't it? Right? That's all our insurance will pay for is chemicals treatments. Nobody's really talking about prevention. We just don't get that lesson here. Right? We're taught that we need 4 basic food groups, and they have to include dairy and grain. Right? Don't worry about eating all that because you have insurance, and the drugs will fix you all up.
We got a pill for you.
Yeah, that's right. So what we're doing today is a page out of the book of prevention, if you would. We're just simply going to take a negative current and pass it through your body. The negative current interferes with your own current, which will cause what's stuck together or stuck to you to become loose. In the water, where your feet are, we will produce ions. These ions will pass through your body and attract the loose particles into clusters, which makes it easy for your kidneys to process out. Look at the second blood draw. So this was before. Here's the same guy just shortly after a detox. You see the difference now?
A little bit better there, huh?
That's right. So the electrical current broke everything up. You see how the cells are white in the middle now, where before they were black and all stuck together?
Yeah.
See, they're full of waste, unable to perform. Now we've got them separate and they're filling with oxygen.
Yeah.
So we're again performing on a cellular level, and that's 48 hours later, and that's why this works. What happens in the water doesn't matter anymore, does it?
Right. Wow.
So if we do this to our body twice a week for the next 10 weeks, what happens to plaque and cholesterol and hyperacidity?
Yeah.
Well, you keep it in check, don't you?
Absolutely.
You kind of prevent it. And that's why we love Alimtox. That's what it does. And it's just that simple.
Yeah.
All the best stuff in the world is simple. And
Huh.
there you have it. Any questions?
No.
How many you want?
I'd like 2. One for the litter and one for the bathroom.
Right.